It's the Inspired by JoAnn show.
Meet your host, certified confidence coach JoAnn Dean, inspiring women on the rise. Welcome to another Faith Chat.
Hello there, I'm JoAnn and welcome to the Inspired by JoAnn show. Today we'll be talking about breaking unhealthy behavior patterns, and I'm excited to read an excerpt from my first book, It Begins With You. Breaking unhealthy patterns. According to Webster, a pattern is defined as the regular and repeated way in which something happens or is done. We have to decide what we're willing to release in order to live the life that we were designed to live. What is it costing you to remain where you are, repeating the same patterns over and over again? While I waited on God to grant me the desires of my heart, I worked on me. I began with looking at why I allowed the external voices to drown out my internal voice. Why didn't I trust my own voice? I couldn't seem to figure it out on my own. I remember reading that some answers only come through fasting and praying, so I decided I would seek God more intently by fasting and praying. I remember the day my breakthrough happened. I was sitting on a couch in my one-bedroom apartment when this overwhelming feeling came over me. It felt like God was nudging me. At this point, I had spent enough time in His presence to recognize Him. I began to sing a song of worship, and before I knew it, a vision on a giant flat screen appeared. I saw myself in first grade. I was being moved by the teacher to the kindergarten class because of an error. My cousin and I had begun school together. Our parents enrolled us in first grade, skipping kindergarten because we were prepared. However, our birth certificates reflected that we should have been enrolled in kindergarten. As the story was told, someone found out about my age and reported it, which caused me to be removed from first grade and placed in kindergarten, separating my cousin and me. This is when the seed was sown of not feeling like I was smart enough. The behavior pattern of overanalyzing everything and wanting it to be perfect began. Once I realized this revelation of where my behavior pattern stemmed from, I began the work of breaking these patterns. It's been a long journey, and I'm still on it. I started by reading articles, attending conferences, and surrounding myself with positive people. Most importantly, I continued to grow my relationship with God. I studied what His Word said about me and how to renew my mind. Then I noticed a new pattern. As long as I kept God first, I felt empowered and enough. Whenever I broke this pattern, it felt like something was missing, and I attempted to fill this space with people and things, mostly things. For a season, the things came from excessive shopping. Don't get me wrong, I love this pattern. It was such a high and it validated me. But it too was an unhealthy behavior pattern that needed to be broken. I was in debt. Once again, I cried out to God for help, and He answered. As I continued my journey of breaking behavior patterns, I examined other areas of my life. And it was time to forgive. I had to do it if I wanted to move on and live a healthy life. I'm sure you've heard this many times before, but it's worth saying again. Forgiveness is for you, not for the person who offended or disappointed you. Holding on to unforgiveness is like carrying a backpack filled with 1,000 knickknacks. The load is heavy, distracting, and unvaluable. Forgiveness is a decision that gives you permission to drop the backpack and discard all the knickknacks. It frees you to live in the present, no longer holding on to the past or feeling uncertain about your future. The danger of unforgiveness is anger and sickness. Make the decision to forgive others or maybe even yourself. I did. I stopped waiting for it to feel right. I took control of my emotions. If it helps, write down your emotions and then release them. Bury them, burn them, flush them, whatever you need to do with them. Ask for help if you need to, but start taking steps in that direction. It all begins with you making the decision. You will know you have forgiven when the mention of the person's name or his or her presence no longer has an effect on you. When I was ready, I examined the relationships with my family members who weren't always kind to me. I carefully looked at what I received from some of them versus what I thought I should have received. I recognized that the unkind words and misplaced anger were a part of their pain. This helped me with forgiving them. I've made a choice to love my family as they are. It is not my job to change them, nor is it their job to change me. I offer support where I can and leave the rest up to God. This decision has taken a load off of me. The backpack isn't as heavy as it once was, carrying around all those knickknacks. Besides, my life is enough for me to handle. My life is filled with highs and lows. Some days it feels as if I have it all together, and then there are days when I'm complaining and crying out to God for rescuing. I'm sure this is true for most of us. I don't know why God chose this life for me, but what I do know is that it was on purpose. We are all here on purpose by His divine design, whether our lives make sense to us or not. I've seen God at work in my life time and time again. He's become so many things to me, and for that I am grateful. Take responsibility for your life. Make your journey count. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, continue to walk by faith. Take care. If you'd like a copy of It Begins With You, it's available on Amazon.com. Please be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell for new content. Leave a comment or simply introduce yourself. I'd love to say hi. Until next time, continue to walk by faith.